Alright, because the wort mechanical and the cooling stage go hand in hand, we are going to test them together. The two inputs for the wort mechanical stage are water and our ingredients, so we will first add 3 gallons of water to this, check the pot for leakage on all the extremities, and then we will add our ingredients. Once we've added our ingredients, we will turn the heating element on, bring the wort to a rolling boil. Once it is at a rolling boil, we will shut the heating element off, open the ball valve, which will drain into the cooling stage. Once it is finished flowing out of the cooling stage, we will check the wort in the bucket to make sure that the wort is under 80 degrees Fahrenheit. We will then unhook the tubing from the ball valve and ensure that the ball valve is not plugged. And that will complete the wort mechanical and the cooling stage testing. We have water, approximately 3.5 gallons. As you can see right there, there's no leakage out of the ball valve area. When we come around to where the heating element is, you can see that it is sealed and there's no leakage there, and there's also no leakage where the temperature sensor will go. The cooling stage is set up right here. This tubing will connect to the ball valve, the copper coil, and it'll exit through the cooler right there and into the bucket. Alright, before we plug in and turn on the heating element, we will add our ingredients. The first ingredient is our malt extract. And then once the water is boiling, then we will add the hops. So we will turn on the heating element by plugging it in. And we will wait for a rolling boil. Alright, so the water is now at a rolling boil. The last part of the ingredient insertion will be the insertion of the hops. The insertion of the hops will be going down a slide similar to this plastic. So when the insertion of the hops will go in, they'll be dropped onto this slide, and as you can see, they drop into the slide without sticking on it. So that's exactly what we want. You can see that it's a rolling boil with the hops in there. After an hour with this rolling boil, those hops will actually be mixed into it. Now that that is at a rolling boil for testing purposes, I will then open the ball valve right there, which will lead into the cooler and through the cooling stage, and it'll exit out into the bucket. Once the wort has finished draining into the bucket, we will measure the temperature of the wort inside the bucket to make sure it's under 80 degrees, and that will complete the cooling test. Then to complete the wort mech test, we will unplug the tube from the ball valve and check the ball valve to make sure that it is not plugged. So without further ado, we will unplug the heating element, which turns it off, and we will wait just a second for this to come to a non-rolling boil, which signifies that it's just under 212 degrees. The wort has come to 212 degrees, so we will now open the ball valve, and you can see that it is flowing into the cooling stage, and it'll flow through the cooling stage and out into this bucket. Once it is done draining, like I said, we will measure the temperature of the wort inside the bucket and ensure that it is under 80 degrees. Alright, the wort has stopped draining. The ball valve is still open, and as you can see, there's very little liquid left in the bottom. The false bottom has confirmed that it works. So we will now take off the tubing. We can see that it is in fact not plugged. And we will get the temperature sensor to record the temperature, and we need it to be under 80 degrees. And it is about 55 degrees. A low would typically be about 60 degrees, so we're just under the recommended low, which is better to be low than above 80 degrees. So that completes the cooling test and the wort mechanical test.